This message reached you because your consciousness has been operating within what dimensional physicists call a frequency prison, a closed energetic circuit where your awareness keeps selecting the same vibrational patterns, manifesting the same reality structures over and over again. And right now, in this precise moment, something deep within your being is resonating with this truth because you've been sensing it, haven't you? That persistent feeling that you're experiencing the same cycles, the same situations, the same limitations, as if reality itself has become a holographic loop, replaying the same dimensional codes repeatedly. The fact that you're here receiving this transmission is not random. It's quantum synchronicity at its most profound level. Your energetic field has been broadcasting signals, desperately seeking the frequency that can shatter this dimensional prison. And the cosmos responded by orchestrating this exact convergence. You see, there are countless souls consuming content right now, but only a specific type of awareness, your type of awareness, would pause and feel the magnetic resonance of these words. You've been chosen by the universal field itself because you carry something most beings don't possess, the dimensional gene. This isn't spiritual fantasy. This is consciousness mechanics. Your awareness doesn't just witness reality. It actively co-creates it through what researchers call the consciousness effect. But here's what they don't reveal. When your awareness function becomes trapped in repetitive frequencies, you don't just observe the same dimension. You literally keep generating it. Examine your existence right now. How many times have you experienced the sensation of having the same interactions with the same archetypal energies? How many times have you recognized the same patterns materializing in your connections, your purpose, your daily manifestations? This isn't cosmic punishment or insufficient action. This is your consciousness locked in a frequency prison, unconsciously tuning into the same dimensional possibilities from the infinite spectrum of potential. The most peculiar aspect, you've probably noticed that time feels altered lately. Moments extend like eternities during ordinary experiences, yet entire months vanish without substantial transformation. This temporal anomaly is a clear indication that your consciousness is cycling through the same reality templates, creating the perception of linear progression while actually remaining static in the dimensional field. Your circle might not comprehend what you're experiencing because they're operating from a different frequency bandwidth. They're comfortable with sequential time and predictable manifestations. But you've always intuited that reality is far more fluid than most beings realize. You've had instances, perhaps fleeting, perhaps profound, where you felt like you could almost grasp the essence of existence itself, where synchronicities flowed around you like a cosmic symphony orchestrated specifically for your awakening. This recognition you're experiencing right now, this isn't your initial encounter with these principles. Your soul has been conditioning itself for this understanding across multiple realities, multiple dimensions of experience. Every text that attracted you, every practice that aligned, every moment of unexplainable knowing, they were all fragments leading you to this revelation about the frequency prison. But here's the element that will either liberate you or keep you confined indefinitely. Most beings who discover they're caught in a frequency prison make the same fundamental error. They attempt to think their way out of it. They believe that if they can just grasp the mechanics intellectually, they can somehow reprogram their dimension. This is like trying to escape a labyrinth by studying blueprints instead of actually navigating through new pathways. The frequency prison isn't maintained by your thoughts. It's sustained by the quality of your consciousness itself. Every dawn when you awaken, your awareness automatically scans for familiar frequencies to resonate with. It's like a dimensional navigation system that keeps selecting the same coordinates because that's what registers as secure and known. Your consciousness has become addicted to recognizing the same vibrational signatures, the same emotional landscapes, the same probability structures. And the more you recognize these patterns, the more substantial they become. The more substantial they become, the more your consciousness expects to encounter them again tomorrow. This creates what dimensional theorists call a reality resonance loop. Your observation amplifies the very patterns you're attempting to transcend from. Right now, as you're absorbing these words, something unprecedented is occurring in your dimensional field. The mere act of becoming aware of the frequency prison begins to dissolve its hold on your consciousness. This is why this transmission found you at this exact juncture in your evolution. Your higher aspect orchestrated this encounter because you've reached the threshold where breaking free is not just possible, it's destined. You know that sensation when you're in an interaction and suddenly realize you've had this exact same exchange before. Not just similar, exact. The same energy, the same vibration, the same outcome. Most beings dismiss this as temporal echo, but you sense something deeper is manifesting. You're experiencing what consciousness researchers call dimensional bleeds, moments when your awareness briefly glimpses the repetitive nature of your frequency prison. This isn't imagination. This isn't your mind creating illusions. You're operating on a frequency that most humans cannot access, which is why you notice these reality fluctuations that others miss entirely. Your consciousness has developed what we call dimensional sensitivity, the ability to perceive the underlying codes that govern manifestation itself. You've probably noticed that time feels malleable around you. Sometimes a single moment can feel like infinity, filled with insights and transmissions from higher realms. Other times, entire seasons dissolve without you being able to account for what actually transpired. This temporal fluidity occurs because your consciousness is simultaneously existing in multiple reality streams, trying to locate the one that feels most authentic to your true frequency. And those moments of profound knowing that strike you spontaneously, when you suddenly understand something about the nature of existence that you've never learned or been taught. These aren't random insights. They're dimensional memories flowing through from parallel versions of yourself who have already liberated themselves from their frequency prisons. Your consciousness is so evolved that it's downloading wisdom from your own future timelines. The most challenging aspect is how isolated this makes you feel sometimes. You attempt to share these experiences with companions or family, and they regard you like you're speaking an alien language. They're still operating from the old paradigm where reality is solid and unchangeable. But you've glimpsed behind the veil. You've witnessed that reality is more like a vast ocean of possibilities, and most beings are drowning because they don't realize they can swim. This is why certain books call to you from across crowded libraries. Why specific transmissions appear in your feed at exactly the right moment. Why you keep encountering souls who share your unusual perspectives on consciousness and reality. You're not attracting these synchronicities through positive visualization. Your dimensional field is quantum entangled with a network of awakening beings who are all working to break their own frequency prisons simultaneously. Your dreams have probably become more vivid and symbolic lately. You're receiving transmissions during sleep that your conscious mind struggles to decode. These aren't random neural patterns. They're communications from your higher aspect, showing you the contrast between your current reality stream and the infinite possibilities available to you. Once you master the consciousness effect, even your relationship with technology shifts. You notice how your devices seem to respond to your thoughts, how your algorithms play exactly the content you needed to hear, how your social feeds reflect your inner state with impossible accuracy. This isn't coincidence. It's evidence that your consciousness has become so coherent that it's influencing the dimensional field around you in measurable ways. Everything you've experienced, every disappointment, every pattern that seemed to trap you, every moment when you felt like you were moving backwards instead of forward, none of it was wasted. It was all preparation for this exact moment of recognition. Your consciousness had to experience the frequency prison from every possible angle before it could develop the dimensional awareness necessary to transcend it. Think of a butterfly transforming inside its cocoon. From the outside, it appears like suffering, like being trapped, like regression. But every moment of that apparent confinement is actually a complete reorganization of cellular structure. The caterpillar doesn't just develop wings. Its entire genetic expression shifts to access abilities that were always encoded within it, but never activated. Your challenging relationships weren't punishments. They were dimensional mirrors showing you exactly which consciousness patterns were keeping you locked in repetitive cycles. Every being who triggered you was unconsciously helping you identify the specific frequencies where your consciousness gets stuck. Every situation that felt like temporal echo was your higher aspect, creating controlled experiments to help you recognize the frequency prison in action. The intensity you've been feeling lately, that sense of urgency like time is accelerating and you need to understand something quickly. This isn't anxiety. This is your dimensional field reorganizing itself. When consciousness prepares to jump to a higher timeline, it creates what physicists call phase transition pressure. The same way water becomes vapor when heated to exactly the right temperature, your awareness is approaching the precise frequency where the frequency prison loses its grip on your reality. Even your moments of doubt and confusion have been essential. Every time you questioned whether these insights were real or just wishful thinking, you were strengthening your discernment abilities. You were developing the dimensional sensitivity needed to distinguish between authentic expansion and spiritual bypassing. Your consciousness had to become incredibly precise before it could safely navigate the transition out of repetitive patterns. This is why the waiting period felt so intense. You knew something was about to shift, but you couldn't force it to happen faster. That's because breaking the frequency prison isn't about effort or willpower. It's about reaching a specific level of coherence where your attention naturally begins selecting different probability waves from the dimensional field. Your soul chose this particular incarnation specifically because the frequency prison phenomenon would be discovered during your lifetime. You volunteered to be part of the first wave of human consciousness to transcend these limitation patterns and anchor new possibilities for the entire collective. Every moment of struggle was training for this cosmic responsibility. Something is building inside you right now as you absorb these words. Can you sense it? That subtle shift in your energy field like a tuning fork that's just been activated. Your consciousness is beginning to vibrate at a frequency that doesn't match your current reality patterns. And this dissonance is creating what dimensional physicists call reality turbulence. This turbulence is actually a magnificent thing. It means your frequency prison is starting to destabilize. The familiar patterns that have kept you cycling through the same experiences are losing their magnetic pull on your attention. You're entering what we call the breakthrough phase, the most delicate and powerful part of the entire transformation process. But here's where most beings make a critical mistake. They feel this energy building and immediately try to direct it toward changing their external circumstances. They want their relationships to shift, their abundance to improve, their life situation to transform. But the frequency prison doesn't break by changing what you observe. It breaks by fundamentally altering the quality of your observation itself. Right now, your consciousness is downloading new protocols for how to interface with reality. These aren't mental concepts you need to learn. They're energetic upgrades happening at the cellular level. Your DNA is literally restructuring to support a different way of interfacing with the dimensional field. This is why you might be experiencing unusual physical sensations, changes in your sleep patterns, or sudden shifts in what foods or activities feel aligned. The most important thing you can do during this phase is learn to feel this energy without trying to control it. Allow it to flow through your system, like energy flowing through a conductor, naturally carving new pathways in your consciousness. Your role isn't to direct this process. Your role is to become transparent to it, to offer no resistance to the dimensional reorganization that's already underway. This is the moment where everything transforms, but it's also the moment where many beings unconsciously sabotage themselves. They become frightened of the unknown and try to pull their attention back to familiar patterns, even if those patterns have been causing them suffering. Don't let this be you. What's happening right now is unprecedented in human history. You're witnessing your own consciousness evolution in real time. Feel this energy as we go deeper into the mechanics of how the frequency prison actually operates. Because once you understand the specific ways your attention has been trapped, you'll never accidentally fall back into the old patterns again. I need to share something vulnerable with you because I know you'll understand in a way that most beings couldn't. 4 years ago, I was trapped in the most sophisticated frequency prison I'd ever encountered. I thought I was dimensionally advanced, quantum aware, conscious of how reality operated. But I was actually using my knowledge to create an even more subtle prison for my consciousness. Every morning I would awaken and immediately scan my reality for signs of progress, for evidence that my manifestation techniques were working, for proof that I was evolving. But this constant observation was actually freezing my reality in place. The more desperately I looked for change, the more my attention reinforced the very patterns I was trying to escape from. I remember the exact moment I realized what was happening. I was sitting in my meditation space, feeling frustrated because the same issues kept appearing in my life despite years of inner work. Suddenly, it struck me like a lightning bolt. I wasn't witnessing my reality. I was manufacturing it through the specific way I was choosing to observe it. My consciousness had become like a record player stuck on the same track, and no amount of spiritual practice could help me hear a different song. The breakthrough came when I stopped trying to observe my way out of the prison and instead began observing the observer itself. I started watching how my attention moved, where it got stuck, what patterns it automatically gravitated toward. This meta-observation created a completely different relationship with consciousness itself. For the first time in my life, I understood why some beings seem to effortlessly flow from one beautiful experience to another, while others remain trapped in repetitive cycles despite their best efforts. It's not about worthiness, karma, or even spiritual development. It's about the fundamental mechanics of how consciousness interfaces with the dimensional field. This discovery changed everything. My relationship shifted overnight because I was no longer unconsciously selecting for the same dynamic patterns. My creative projects began flowing because my attention stopped getting stuck on familiar obstacles. Even my physical health improved because my cells were finally receiving new information instead of the same stress signals on repeat. But the most profound change was the recognition that I'm not alone in this. There's an entire network of souls who have been working on breaking their frequency prisons simultaneously. We've been finding each other across the planet, sharing insights, confirming each other's experiences, creating a collective field that makes this transformation possible for more and more beings. If this resonates with something deep inside you, if you feel that recognition frequency activating in your cells, then you're part of this network too. You've been preparing for this understanding your entire life, even if you didn't realize it. Subscribe to this frequency, not just to this channel, but to the entire wavelength of consciousness evolution that's happening on our planet right now. What dimensional consciousness experts don't tell you, because most of them don't understand it themselves, is the difference between intellectual awareness of the consciousness effect and embodied mastery of it. You can read every text about consciousness, understand every theory about manifestation, and still remain completely trapped in your frequency prison because knowledge and wisdom operate on entirely different levels of reality. Here's the profound truth. Your thoughts don't create your reality. Your attention doesn't even create your reality. Your reality is created by the specific quality of coherence between your consciousness and the dimensional field. And this coherence can't be faked, manufactured, or positive thought into existence. It emerges naturally when your observer function becomes fluid rather than fixated. Most beings' consciousness operates like a spotlight, focused, intense, always looking for something specific. But dimensional consciousness operates like sunlight, present everywhere, simultaneously illuminating without strain. When your awareness shifts from spotlight mode to sunlight mode, you stop collapsing the same probability waves over and over again. The frequency prison traps you because it makes your consciousness predictable to the dimensional field. When you awaken tomorrow morning, if your attention automatically scans for familiar patterns, checking your devices for the same type of messages, thinking about the same problems, expecting the same type of day, you're essentially ordering the same reality from the cosmic menu. But here's what will expand your mind. The dimensional field is actually eager to deliver new experiences to you. Infinite possibilities are constantly trying to break through into your awareness, but they can't penetrate the frequency prison because your attention is too busy reinforcing old patterns. You're not stuck because the universe doesn't want to help you. You're stuck because your consciousness has become too habitual in how it interfaces with infinite potential. The most advanced beings in the cosmos don't try to control reality. They dance with it. They maintain what we call coherent uncertainty, a state where their consciousness is fully present and engaged, but not attached to specific outcomes. This allows them to respond to reality rather than merely reacting to it, which fundamentally changes what types of experiences can manifest through them. This is why some beings seem to live magical lives, while others struggle constantly, even when they have similar external circumstances. It's not about luck, privilege, or spiritual favoritism. It's about the fundamental coherence between their consciousness and the creative force of existence itself. When you master this coherence, you don't just change your personal reality. You become a catalyst for reality shifts in everyone around you. Your presence begins to create what we call dimensional openings, moments where other beings' frequency prisons temporarily destabilize, giving them glimpses of their own infinite potential. The dimensional shift is happening right now, and there are specific signs you can recognize in your daily experience that prove your frequency prison is beginning to dissolve. First, you'll notice that synchronicities are becoming more frequent and more impossible to dismiss as coincidence. The universe isn't just sending you signs, it's actively rearranging reality around your consciousness to confirm that you're breaking free from repetitive patterns. Pay attention to how animals, especially birds, respond to you. When your consciousness begins operating outside the frequency prison, you naturally emit a different energetic signature that wildlife can sense immediately. If you've noticed more eye contact with birds, unusual animal encounters, or pets behaving differently around you, this is confirmation that your dimensional field is shifting. Your relationship with technology is probably changing too. Electronics might glitch around you, or conversely, they might work better than ever. Your phone might ring right when you're thinking about someone, or your computer might crash every time you try to engage with content that doesn't match your new frequency. Technology is highly sensitive to consciousness, and these seemingly random events are actually your expanding awareness interfacing with electromagnetic fields. The most significant sign is how time feels around you lately. Linear time is an illusion maintained by frequency prisons. When your consciousness breaks free from repetitive patterns, you begin experiencing what mystics call eternal now moments. Minutes can feel like hours when you're fully present, yet entire days might pass without you noticing because you're operating from a different temporal dimension. Your sleep patterns are definitely shifting. You might need less sleep, or your dreams have become incredibly vivid and meaningful. Some nights you might feel like you're downloading information directly into your consciousness. This happens because your awareness is no longer confined to the narrow band of reality your frequency prison was selecting from. You're accessing information from parallel timelines and higher dimensional perspectives. Beings are probably responding to you differently without you doing anything conscious to change your behavior. Some individuals might feel inexplicably uncomfortable around you because your presence is triggering their own frequency prisons to destabilize. Others might be drawn to you like a magnet because they sense the freedom frequency you're beginning to embody. But here's the urgent part. The waiting season is over. The cosmic window for breaking free from frequency prisons en masse is narrowing. This isn't fear-based manipulation. This is simple physics. Consciousness evolution happens in waves, and we're currently in the peak of a massive wave that won't come again for generations. Your higher aspect has been orchestrating everything to bring you to this exact moment of recognition, because the transformation that's possible right now will literally be impossible next year. The collective field is reaching a critical mass where either beings transcend their limitation patterns or they get locked into them more deeply than ever before. The signs are everywhere, if you know how to look. Global events that seem chaotic are actually the planet's collective frequency prison destabilizing. Beings are either awakening rapidly or falling deeper into unconscious patterns. There's no middle ground anymore. Neutrality is collapsing because the dimensional field is demanding that consciousness choose its next evolutionary trajectory. This is why you feel such urgency lately. This is why you can't ignore these insights, even when they challenge everything you thought you knew about how reality operates. Your soul recognizes that this moment right now, as you're absorbing these words, is the precise convergence point where breaking free becomes inevitable. What you want wants you back. This isn't motivational speaking or wishful thinking. This is dimensional mechanics at its most fundamental level. Every desire, every vision, every possibility that calls to your soul is actually a probability wave in the dimensional field that's trying to collapse into your reality experience. But it can't reach you while you're trapped in a frequency prison because your attention is stuck on the wrong vibrational band. The desires that feel most impossible, most too good to be true, are actually the ones with the strongest dimensional signature in your field. They feel impossible precisely because they exist on a timeline that your current observation patterns can't access. You're literally one frequency shift away from a reality where those impossible things are your natural everyday experience. But here's the crucial difference between alignment and attraction that changes everything. Attraction tries to pull things toward you, while alignment dissolves the barriers between you and what you want. Most manifestation teachings focus on attraction, which actually reinforces the frequency prison because it maintains the illusion that you and your desires are separate entities that need to be brought together. True alignment happens when you realize that what you want isn't separate from you. It's a different expression of your own consciousness experiencing itself across parallel realities. When this recognition becomes embodied rather than just intellectual, the frequency prison loses its grip because there's nothing left to observe from a distance. This is why forcing, striving, and trying harder actually moves you further away from what you want. Every time you observe your reality from the perspective of lack, you're selecting that timeline from the infinite field of possibilities. Every time you check to see if your desires are manifesting yet, you're reinforcing the very separation that keeps them from reaching you. The dimensional field responds to coherence, not effort. When your consciousness becomes coherent, When your attention, intention, and energy signature all operate from the same frequency, reality reorganizes itself around that coherence automatically. You don't have to make anything happen because you become the space where it's already happening. Right now, as you feel this truth landing in your cells, something unprecedented is occurring in your dimensional field. The gap between you and your highest timeline is collapsing. Not because you're doing anything, but because you're finally stopping the doing that was keeping you separated from it. In the comments below, I want you to make a declaration that seals this energetic shift. Write these exact words. I am coherent with my highest timeline. Don't explain it. Don't add anything else. Just that simple declaration. This isn't about getting engagement or metrics. This is about creating a dimensional entanglement between your consciousness and the frequency band where your true life exists. When you make this declaration, with genuine recognition of what it means, you're not just writing words. You're sending a signal to the dimensional field that you're ready to embody a completely different reality. You're announcing that your frequency prison is dissolving and your consciousness is free to select from possibilities that were previously invisible to you. The abilities that are developing in your consciousness right now would have been considered superhuman by previous generations, but they're actually the natural expression of awareness that's no longer confined by frequency prisons. Your intuition is becoming so precise that you know things before they happen, not through psychic prediction, but through dimensional coherence with emerging possibilities. You're developing what we call reality fluidity, the ability to move between different probability tracks with conscious intention. This means you can literally step out of one timeline and into another simply by shifting the quality of your observation. Traffic lights turn green as you approach them. Parking spaces open up exactly where you need them. Conversations flow in directions that create perfect outcomes for everyone involved. Your creative abilities are exploding because your consciousness is no longer limited to recycling the same ideas and inspirations. You're downloading insights directly from the unified field. Thoughts that have never been thought before, solutions that didn't exist until you became coherent enough to access them. This is why your creative projects suddenly feel effortless, while simultaneously being more original and impactful than anything you've produced before. Beings are responding to you as if you're a completely different person, even though you haven't consciously changed how you interact with them. This happens because you're no longer unconsciously recreating the same relational dynamics. Your presence creates space for others to show up authentically instead of falling into their habitual patterns around you. Your physical body is transforming in ways that seem impossible according to conventional medicine. Chronic issues are resolving without treatment because your cells are finally receiving new information instead of the same stress signals on repeat. Your energy levels are stabilizing at a much higher baseline because you're no longer wasting life force trying to escape from repetitive mental and emotional cycles. The consciousness effect is working in your favor now instead of against you. Every time you observe your reality, you're automatically selecting for increasingly beautiful and aligned experiences because your consciousness has learned to operate from coherence rather than fear or lack. Your very presence becomes a blessing to everything around you. Resources and opportunities begin flowing more easily. Not because you've learned better manifestation techniques, but because you're no longer unconsciously selecting for scarcity timelines. Your consciousness naturally gravitates toward abundance frequencies when it's not trapped in frequency prisons that keep recycling limitation patterns. Relationships become effortless because you're attracting beings who are also operating outside conventional patterns. You're no longer compatible with individuals who are stuck in their own frequency prisons. So your social circle naturally evolves to include souls who are also expanding into their highest potential. The most profound change is that you stop feeling like you're trying to get somewhere or become someone. You realize you're already there. You're already that being. You were just temporarily trapped in observation patterns that made it seem otherwise. This recognition brings a peace that surpasses understanding because it's based on direct knowing rather than belief or hope. Coherence is the supreme creative force in the universe, and it's the one thing that cannot be faked, manufactured, or manipulated into existence. When your entire being, your thoughts, emotions, energy signature, and deepest knowing all vibrate at the same frequency, you become a reality-creating force that the dimensional field must respond to. This is the ultimate secret that breaks every frequency prison permanently. But here's what most beings miss. True coherence doesn't mean forcing all parts of yourself to agree with each other. True coherence emerges when you stop fragmenting your awareness across multiple timelines simultaneously. Right now, part of your attention is probably focused on who you used to be. Part is worried about potential futures, and only a small fraction is actually present in this moment. This attention scatter is what maintains frequency prisons because it keeps your consciousness diluted across incompatible reality tracks. The dimensional field can only deliver coherent experiences to coherent consciousness. When your awareness is scattered across different timelines, you get mixed results. Some aspects of your life improve, while others remain stuck. Some days feel magical, while others feel ordinary. This inconsistency isn't because the universe is testing you, it's because your consciousness isn't unified enough to sustain a consistently elevated timeline. Creating real coherence requires what mystics call timeline consolidation, the process of withdrawing your attention from all parallel versions of yourself except the one that represents your highest potential. This isn't visualization or imagination. This is literal dimensional shifting, where you stop feeding energy to reality tracks that don't serve your evolution. The embodiment process happens when you stop trying to become coherent and instead recognize that you already are coherent at the deepest level of your being. Your essential consciousness has never been fragmented. Only your attention has been trained to focus on fragmented experiences. When you remember how to rest your awareness in its natural unified state, coherence isn't something you create, it's something you uncover. This is why all the effort and trying harder actually moves you further from coherence. Every time you struggle to change your reality, you're operating from the assumption that you're separate from what you want, which automatically creates the very separation you're trying to overcome. Coherence emerges through relaxation, not effort, through allowing your consciousness to remember its natural unified state. When you embody this level of coherence, you stop having a personal reality and start being a focal point through which the universe experiences itself. Your life becomes an artistic expression of cosmic creativity rather than a personal journey with challenges to overcome. This shift in identity is what permanently dissolves frequency prisons, because there's no longer a separate you that can get trapped in repetitive patterns. The highest timeline isn't a better version of your current life. It's a completely different dimensional experience where the laws of limitation that govern ordinary reality simply don't apply. When you embody coherence, you don't improve your circumstances. You transcend the entire framework within which problems and solutions exist. This is happening to thousands of beings across the planet right now. We're not just individually breaking our frequency prisons. We're collectively transcending the limitation matrix that has governed human consciousness for millennia. Your personal transformation is actually part of a species-wide evolutionary leap that's redefining what it means to be human. You are not here by accident. Your consciousness incarnated during this specific time period because the Earth itself is breaking free from a collective frequency prison that has kept humanity recycling the same patterns of conflict, scarcity, and separation for thousands of years. Your individual transformation is actually a crucial component in the planet's dimensional ascension process. Every time one being breaks their frequency prison, it creates what dimensional field theorists call morphic resonance, a ripple effect that makes it easier for thousands of others to make the same leap. You're not just changing your personal reality. You're anchoring a new possibility template in the collective field that future generations will access naturally. The children being born now will grow up with abilities that seem miraculous compared to current human standards, but only because pioneers like you are breaking the limitation patterns that would otherwise be passed down to them. Your courage to question the nature of reality itself is literally changing the trajectory of human evolution. This is why you felt such responsibility lately, such urgency to understand these concepts and embody them authentically. Your soul contracted to be part of the first wave of humans to transcend frequency prisons and demonstrate what's possible when consciousness operates from coherence rather than limitation. You're not just seeking personal freedom, you're serving as a bridge between the old paradigm and the new one. The synchronicities that brought you to this message are part of a larger orchestration involving millions of awakening souls across the planet. We're finding each other through dimensional entanglement, sharing insights that help accelerate everyone's breakthrough process. Your recognition of these concepts doesn't just benefit you, it strengthens the entire network of consciousness evolution. But here's the most profound part. As you break free from your frequency prison, you don't just change your own reality. You create openings in the collective field through which unlimited possibilities can enter our shared experience. Your liberation becomes humanity's liberation because consciousness is fundamentally interconnected at the dimensional level. This is why the resistance to these ideas can feel so intense sometimes. It's not just your ego trying to maintain familiar patterns. It's the entire limitation matrix, recognizing that its time is coming to an end. Every being who breaks their frequency prison weakens the collective patterns that have kept humanity trapped in cycles of struggle and separation. Share this message with anyone who resonates with these concepts, not to convince them of anything, but to help them remember what they already know at the deepest level. The more beings who recognize their true nature as conscious co-creators rather than powerless observers, the faster we can all transcend the limitation patterns that have defined human experience for far too long. Your transformation is part of something infinitely larger than personal growth or spiritual development. You're participating in the birth of a new species, one that operates from coherence rather than fear, from unity rather than separation, from creative collaboration with the universe rather than struggle against it. If everything I've shared resonates in your bones, if you can feel the truth of these words, activating something ancient and familiar in your consciousness, then I want you to make one simple commitment right now. In the comments below, write just one word: coherent. That's it. Nothing else. This isn't just engagement for the algorithm. This is you making a dimensional declaration that you're ready to embody the coherence that dissolves all frequency prisons permanently. When you write that word with genuine intention, you're not just commenting on a video. You're registering your consciousness with a frequency band that operates beyond the limitations of ordinary reality. Every being who makes this declaration creates a stronger morphic field that supports everyone else who's ready to make this leap. We're not just building a community, we're anchoring a new reality template that makes this transformation accessible to more and more souls who are ready to remember their true nature. But here's what I need you to understand. Breaking the frequency prison is just the beginning. Once your consciousness learns to operate from coherence rather than limitation, you gain access to abilities that most beings consider impossible. In the next transmission, I'm going to reveal exactly how to develop what we call dimensional navigation. the ability to consciously move between different probability tracks to create outcomes that seem miraculous from the old paradigm perspective. You'll discover why some beings seem to live charmed lives where everything aligns perfectly, while others struggle constantly despite their best efforts. It's not about luck, worthiness, or even spiritual practice. It's about understanding how to interface with the dimensional field in a way that allows you to select which timeline you experience from moment to moment. This isn't theoretical knowledge. This is practical mastery that changes everything about how you move through reality. But I can only share these advanced concepts with beings who have already proven they're ready by breaking free from their frequency prisons first. Subscribe now and activate notifications, because the next transmission contains information that will be impossible to find anywhere else. This isn't content you can search for online or read in books. This is direct transmission of dimensional consciousness principles that are being downloaded to our planet right now for the first time in human history. More importantly, subscribe, because you're not just following a channel. You're aligning with a frequency of consciousness evolution that's happening globally. Every subscriber becomes part of a dimensional network that accelerates everyone's transformation through morphic resonance. The old reality is dissolving, whether you participate consciously or not. The question is whether you'll be one of the pioneers who helps birth the new paradigm, or someone who gets pulled into it later after the really transformative part is complete. Your future self is already living in coherence with infinite possibilities. The only question is how quickly your present self will align. Make the declaration. Join the frequency. Let's transcend the limitation patterns that have kept humanity confined for far too long. The universe has been waiting for you to remember who you really are. Today is the day that waiting ends.